battleship to engage the enemy in all 5 theaters of World War II.
Wow.
D-Day, June 6, 1944.
Hey guys, the Loud Guys. Today we are going to watch the Fat Electrician Reviews, the USS Texas. And one thing we both are loving is the way he explains everything.
Yes.
And now he's going to explain about the USS Texas. I think so this is also a very big warship. And he's saying the Last Dreadnought. So I think so Dreadnought might be the name of the ships.
I was asking that only. What is the meaning of Dreadnought?
Dreadnoughts might be the name of the ships that have been going on, because we have seen that they give very unique name. Nimitz class, Ford class. So I think the Dreadnought might be one of those, and USS Texas might be the last of those lot. So every last thing has a very nostalgia attached to it, because you're like, oh, now after this we are not going to see it. Even though all the middle parts are ignored, but still the first and the last are very important. So let's see what this USS Texas is all about.
Today we're talking about the most gangster battleship of all time. Ladies and gentlemen, the USS Texas, predating both World Wars, being built in 1914, is commonly referred to as the Last Dreadnought. But it's not technically a dreadnought, it belongs to the American New York class of battleships, which were commonly referred to as super dreadnoughts, which are basically just dreadnoughts that were made in 12ths. And you're never going to believe this, but they were better than all the ones made with the metric system. What made them the best? Well, they had the largest guns ever put on a boat before at that point in time.
Wow.
Those being the Mark I, a turret with 2 barrels capable of launching 14-inch shells that weighed nearly 1,600 pounds apiece. The USS Texas had 5 of them, 2 in the front and 3 in the back. It was like a Freedom sedan. Those guns were also aimed with ballistic calculators and analog computers, making them some of the most accurate naval guns in the world at that point.
Wow.
It was also equipped with 16 Mark 8s shooting 5-inch shells, and 8 Mark 10s shooting 3-inch shells. Not only did it have the best offense in its day, it had the best defense as well. It was the first ship in world history to incorporate anti-aircraft guns, as well as having a 12-inch thick hull. Yeah, an entire freedom foot of Pittsburgh steel. The only thing millimeters is going to do to that is scratch the paint. So you have the best battleship ever made at that point in time. How do you make it more intimidating? That's easy. You have to be the first American ship to ever incorporate Marines in its crew. I'm going to say that again, but slower. They let the fucking water grunts drive the biggest aquatic gun ever made.
Wow.
At that point in history. Anyways.
What a trust.
So World War I rolls around, and needless to say, nobody wanted to be the first to get hit with the Freedom sedan. And for that reason, the USS Texas saw almost no combat in World War I. But its actions in World War II is what made it a naval legend. By the time World War II came around, the USS Texas was nearly 3 decades old. It was no longer the most dangerous battleship in the world, with bigger, newer, faster, fancier ships like the German Bismarck, the Japanese Yamato, and the Iowa-class battleships. But its crew did have 30 years of experience, and as the old adage goes, youth and exuberance is no match for old age and treachery, which is something that the USS Texas lived up to, because it is the only U.S. battleship to engage the enemy in all 5 theaters of World War II.
Wow.
D-Day, June 6, 1944. The USS Texas would take its position 12,000 yards off the coastline. At which point the USS Texas was tasked with bombarding the enemy fortifications. And it did just that, firing over 255 rounds in under 34 minutes. That is 400,000 pounds of ammunition. Let's put that into perspective. Your average Volvo weighs about 4,000 pounds. Meaning that the Texas was shooting the enemy with about 3 spicy Volvos a minute, for half an hour straight. I'm trying to tell you that the Grim Yeater over here bitch slapped the enemy's coastline with an entire car dealership in the amount of time it takes you to watch a TV show. The Grim Yeater would continue to airmail spicy Volvos to the enemy until June 11th, when it ran out of ammo. But then sailed to the rear detachment off the coast of France to pick up more ammunition, and then sailed back to continue engaging the enemy. By the time it had returned to the beach of Normandy, the Allied troops had driven the enemy so far back that its guns could no longer reach. So it advanced from 12,000 yards to 3,000 yards, the closest they could possibly get without beaching the ship. It is at that point in time the USS Texas said, "Hold my beer," and flooded all of its blister tanks on the starboard side, tilting the entire boat, changing the angle of the guns, allowing them to reach further inland.
What's so smart?
They gangster-leaned a 32,000-ton warship so they could continue to engage the enemy.
How?
This might be the most grunt-horrific moment in world history.
Wow.
Can you imagine playing the board game Battleship and whoever you're playing says, "I've sunk my own battleship, prepare to die," and then you get hit with a fucking car? Look, I know I talk about this a lot, but this is a great example of the type of shit that goes on when you hit the doc or the officer. It's not necessarily a war crime, but Geneva didn't necessarily know that shit was even a fucking option. The USS Texas would then go on to engage the Japanese Empire at Okinawa and Iwo Jima. After World War II, it would retire and start the Americans' proud tradition of having their best battleships become floating museums. Unlike all the other best battleships in the world who have a proud tradition of becoming tetanus-infested fish habitats. Like the Japanese Yamato, delicately placed here by the USA, and the German Bismarck, delicately placed here by the USB, also known as Great Britain. If you don't know, the Bismarck and the Yamato are the two battleships that people like to argue are better than the Iowa-class battleships. Given the fact that all the Iowa-class battleships are floating museums that you can see anytime you'd like, and you need scuba gear to see these, it raises the question, what are they better
we all know you want
shitty submarines? For information on the most gangster battleship of all time, you can go to battleshiptexas.org. You can donate, buy memorabilia, or even buy a piece of the ship itself to help preserve this naval legend.
What a wonderful way to explain everything. And there was a bit of showing off too. And even in last videos we have seen, like, because yes, of course, he's a proud American. He just loves to show that off. And of course, anything about India, we also love to say that, okay, India has done this, done that. Yes, so it is similar for him, and he was just telling that, okay, you can also see the Japanese warship inside the sea. It is safely there. So saying things like that, it just shows that, okay, USS Texas, that was about 30 years old at that point of time, or 20 years old technology, but still it was able to give very good fight to all those modern warships. I think
those soldiers who were on that warship was get disappointed, because for them it was like, now this ship is not useful now. But later on, after it just beat all other warships.
Yes, and that part was interesting, where they could just tilt or kindly somewhat sink their boat, and then they could attack. And also the way he told that how heavy the bullets are, like Volvo cars. So that is very heavy. So, or not the bullets, you could say the missiles kind of thing. So it was really great to see this. And USS Texas, the last dreadnought, and also it was not the dreadnought, it was the modern dreadnought. So there were these kind of ships that were made by USA, and even the British ship was also sunk. So I don't know why. I don't think the US would have sunk that. But yes, this is something they were saying, that you can also get a piece of that. So that is very interesting, like having a piece of a ship that was 100 years old in a war. Very interesting thing for each one of you to have.
Do you like old things? Are you interested in old things?
Yes, and that too something that has to do with with humanity.
Humanity and wars and sort of.
Because consider one thing, that if US would not have entered, or by chance Hitler would have won the war,
no.
So the world would have been very different.
Very
yes.
Different.
So many slaves and everything would have been very chaotic. So what do you guys think about it? Do let us know in the comment section below. So do like, share and
subscribe.
Bye.